Dear friends, welcome back to Data Analytics Talks. Let us discuss about Cognite Data Model. I got an opportunity to work with Cognite. I think I have got some knowledge about the Cognite as a industrial data ops platform. I would like to share a couple of videos to strengthen my knowledge and share what I have learned. So, Cognite is an AI company that delivers industrial software to improve production efficiency of energy, process mining, manufacturing, and other industrial companies. So, basically, we will look into the data model, and we have dealt a lot about data model, but this is specifically to Cognite data model. So, data model is an abstract model that organizes data elements and standardizes how they relate to one another and to the real world entities. So, if you, I think we understand what is data model. It's a data model is a conceptual representation of the data structure that are required by databases and are very powerful in expressing and communicating the business requirements and the rules. So, coming to the Cognite data model, we will understand what is a core data model and the industrial data model and custom data model. Um, so, looking at this diagram, we understand that this data model basically store the data, right? It is storing the data. The store certain industrial data for efficiency. For example, we have the sensor information, we have the asset information, we have the information, we have the lab information, we have inspection information, we have the work order information. So all this data to be stored in the data model, and the Cognite brings like an out of the box. It brings a data model where you can simply start building a structured, flexible, and kind of contextualized knowledge graph for your industrial data. So what comes out of the box is called the core data model. So it contains the generic building blocks. It is not specific to any industry, any organization, but it is generic. It can be applied to industries across. So that's generic. So what does it mean? A core data model offers a standardized building blocks, forming the basis for more specialized model. So that means we can make use of this model to extend to other model to have more features, right? So that's a core data model. So coming to the industrial data model, what is industrial data model? When you extend the core data model to meet industry specific needs, take an example. We are working on oil and gas industry. So the core data model has comes with inbuilt data model. It may not have all the data models required for supporting this particular oil and gas industry. So there we need to either extend the core data model. Okay, for example, we have an ISO models. ISO 14224 is an ISO model which is applicable to an oil and gas industry. So ISO model has a lot more additional properties and fields which is required and mandated by the ISO. But the core data model we have to extend to have these additional properties, part of the industrial data model. Then coming to the third one is the custom data model. So basically that models from a perspective of data tailored for use cases, maybe a solution, maybe an application. They may not require everything, but they need a specific use cases. We can extend Cognite data model, or we can create a new model from scratch. So that is the custom data model. So let us rewind. It's a core data model, industrial data model, and custom data model. So why do we use this data model? Use the Cognite data fusion data modeling feature to build expressive scalable data models and ingest data to populate the model. and query the models for data they contain. So this is basically the purpose of the data model. So if you look at Cognite interface, I can say that you have the data explorer, we have the um, data catalog, we have the data models. So in the data model, if you browse the data model, you can see we have the data models and the spaces. So it's very important to understand what is space. Is known as space is basically the workspaces where you put everything. It's an instance. It's an instance. Okay, it is a boundary within which you can create your data models, your spaces, and your instances. And you can have multiple spaces, and you can create the access control system around these spaces. So remember, whenever we are creating a data model in the Cognite, you will have to have a space. And look at this, you have the Cognite core data model. It is sitting in the CDF CDM space, which is again the comes with the product. And all other core data models like Cognite Extractor Extended, Cognite Process Industry, Image 360, all are part of the Cognite uh, default space. Okay. So coming to a little bit more about the Cognite Core data model. Cognite Core offers standardized building blocks for industrial data, forming the basis for more specialized model. It is available from CDF CDM system space. It features data integration, data contextualization, scalability, interoperability, and security. So having more close look at the Cognite data model. So the Cognite data model uses two methods to define properties like core features and core concepts. So core features are set of properties that are available for many concepts. So basically, what I understand, core feature means this is available for uh, many concepts like describable. Okay, a data model is implements data model implements Cognite describable means it has the base properties like name, ID, tag, description. Okay, and it is sourceable. It has all the details about where the data comes from. Okay, it is source system, schedulable. That means start time, end time, right? Then visualizable. So these are some of the core features. These features can be applied to any concepts. Concepts is like a specific, it is core, it is basically property that is specific to a single concept. Basically, it is an equipment, cognitive equipment. An equipment, maybe you can say in SAP terms, it is like a functional location and equipments, assets, right? So all the specific properties for this particular concept, it's only for that concept, and it cannot be applied to something called a file. All the properties of file can can be only applied to file. Okay, it is not just a common or generic. So remember, a cognate feature is a generic thing. Cognate concept is specific. And besides, we have something called a 3D concept, like the digital tin and all is implemented using the 3D model. Like we have Cognite cube map, Cognite 3D object, Cognite 3D model, and a lot more about around these 3D concepts. So remember Cognite features, Cognite concepts, and Cognite 3D model when you talk about core data model. So it's also good to understand a little bit more about the concept, the features. So I mentioned like Cognite describable. What's Cognite describable? Cognite describable is a core feature, has properties to create names, descriptions. So this is basically the Cognite describable interface has name property, description property, tag property and aliases, and has the types also. And another core feature is Cognite sourceable. The Cognite sourceable core feature has properties to represent how the source information in concept is stored. Now, when you have like source where the data comes from, that source, right? You have source ID, source context, source, it's a direct relation into source system, and source created date, source updated date, source created user, source updated user. So basically, this is the Cognite sourceable. And we have the Cognite source system. The Cognite source system has properties to represent the source system where the information is stored. It has a version and manufacturer. Then Cognite visualizable. The Cognite visualizable core feature has properties to enable a standard display of objects to represent a reference to a 3D resource. Basically, it's a single property, object 3D, direct relation to Cognite 3D object. The related 3D objects instance representing the 3D resource. The Cognite schedulable core feature has properties to represent start and end times for concept. For example, an activity, start time, end time, schedule start time, schedule end time. So basically, now we have seen that the core features: Cognite describable, Cognite sourceable, Cognite source system, Cognite visualizable, Cognite schedulable. So these are the core features. So whenever we are implementing any data model, you can implement these core features. Okay. And at least we should implement the core describable, at least, that to give the core Cognite uh, feature. Then let's look into the core concepts. Okay, I already mentioned the concept is specific to an instance, so it's not more a generic thing. So Cognite unit is one of the core concept. The Cognite unit concept has properties to represent a single unit of measurement for ampere. For example, ampere is a unit, so it has a symbol, it has a quantity, it has a source, it has a source reference. So there's a core Cognite unit. Then Cognite asset, that's a very important concept. Basically, if you are working with the SAP system, like you have the plant maintenance, we have the functional location. The functional location is mapped to Cognite asset. So it has properties to represent the system that support industrial functions or process. Assets are often called functional locations. So that's what I said. Like when you compare with the SAP system, this is functional location. You can structure asset hierarchy according to your organization's criteria. For example, assets can represent a water pump that's part of a larger pump station asset at a clarification plant asset. So, what are the properties of a Cognite asset? So, let us look at the properties of the Cognite asset. It has a parent property. A parent means a direct relation to the parent of the asset. It has a children. It has a root. It has a path. It has equipment. Basically, it's an important property. It has a reverse direct relation to the Cognite equipment. It has time series, asset class, type, activities, and files. This is implements the Cognite describable, sourceable, and visualizable. Then we have the Cognite asset class and Cognite asset types. So it represents the class of asset, for example, a pump or heat exchanger. It has the properties called code or standard, and the asset type. Again, it is again the type of the asset. It has a code, standard, and asset class. Then Cognite equipment, just like the Cognite asset, this is very important data model. It represents the physical supplies and devices like pump or valve. They are all equipments. It has asset because it has a parent. Asset is equipment related to. It has activities. It has time series, serial number, manufacturer, equipment type, and files. This again uh, implements some of the Cognite describable, schedulable, and so on. And there is a Cognite equipment type. It is represent the type of the equipment like a centrifugal pump. Yeah, initially we said the pump equipment type is centrifugal pump. This has property, equipment class, and standard references. Cognite file is another data model. It is representing the files. Of course, it has related to an asset. It has related to an equipment. It has a MIME type. It has a directory where it is laying. It is uploaded status, uploaded time, and category. And this again implements the Cognite describable. Then coming to Cognite file category, it is representing the contextualization, the categories of the files associated with the contextualization categorization, the code standard and the standard reference. Then Cognite activity, it represents the activity typically happens over a period and have a start and end type. Asset, equipment, time series. That's basically the Cognite activity. So coming to Cognite time series, you understand time series, it is a sense information. It is represent a series of data points in the time order. A temperature reading from a water pump is a time series data. There's E step. Specify whether time series is a step time series or not. It has a type. It has a source unit. Specify the unit, specify the source system. And it has an asset related to an asset, an equipment, and activities. So time series is related to either asset or equipments or functional location. Then Cognite has an annotation. Annotation represent the annotations from contextualization result or link. So it has a confidence score and it has a status. Then the Cognite diagram annotation is represent the properties to represent annotation for a diagram. So we have the PND diagram. We have so it has properties like start node page number, end node page number, start node, then start node minimum, start node maximum, start node text, start node in, and we have some more properties to this Cognite diagram annotation. So that gives you a picturing about the various data model under the concept. We have the Cognite unit, Cognite asset, Cognite asset class, asset type, Cognite equipment, Cognite equipment type, Cognite file, Cognite file category, Cognite activity, Cognite time series, Cognite annotation, and Cognite diagram annotation. So coming to 3D concepts, it has so many 3D features, concepts like it's a Cognite 3D transformation. A property is to represent a notation for a diagram, that is 3D transformation. Cognite a cube map holds references to projections for a cube surrounding and 3D entity extending this, such as the image 360. Again, it has a property front, back, left, right, top, bottom, and has a relation to the Cognite files or 3D files. Then we have something called the Cognite 3D object, a virtual position representation of the object in the physical world, connecting to asset to one or more 3D resources. It has the asset, then CAD nodes and point cloud values and so. A Cognite 3D model is properties to group 3D data. And that is the Cognite 3D model. So we have the Cognite point cloud model, and which is again has a pre-declared filter on Cognite 3D model type equal to point cloud. So there are many models around the 3D like Cognite CAD revision, Cognite point cloud revision, Cognite CAD node, Cognite 360 image, and so on. So I hope you got some idea about Cognite feature, concept, and 3D concepts. So this is good. This has helped you a little bit to understand about the Cognite data model. Thank you very much for watching this video. We will have another topic around Cognite in the next video. Thank you.